Lust is not just an act, it is a seed planted in the mind, going into a prison of endless craving. It promises satisfaction but leaves only emptiness. The Bible warns us that unchecked desire leads to destruction, just as Esau traded his birthright for a fleeting pleasure. You were created with divine power, the ability to shape your world through thought and imagination. But when lust consumes you, it robs you of that power, chaining you to external gratification rather than internal mastery. Today, I want to show you the hidden cost of lust and the boundless reward of overcoming it. Lust begins long before it manifests in the physical world. It is first conceived in the mind, where the imagination crafts illusions of pleasure, trapping the soul in an endless cycle of craving. The Bible tells us that as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. What you entertain in the unseen realm of thought, you inevitably bring forth into reality. Lust, therefore, is not just a passing temptation, it is a self-imposed prison, a force that hijacks the creative faculties God has given you and redirects them toward destruction. When a man or woman is ruled by lust, they are no longer the master of their own mind. They become enslaved to impulses, constantly seeking satisfaction, yet never truly finding it. This is why lust is never fulfilled. It is an appetite that, once fed, only grows stronger. A person caught in the grip of lust believes that one more indulgence will finally bring peace, yet each act only deepens the void. The more you chase it, the more you lose sight of who you really are. You were not created to be a slave to desire. You were created to have dominion, to rule over your thoughts, and to command your reality. Jesus warned that even looking at another with lust in the heart is akin to committing the act itself. Why? Because the mind does not differentiate between imagination and reality. The moment you allow lustful thoughts to take root, you have already begun the process of manifestation. The energy you give to those thoughts pulls you into alignment with them, shaping your destiny in ways you may not even recognize. Lust weakens the will, clouds judgment, and distorts perception. It replaces spiritual vision with carnal desire, blinding a person to the higher calling on their life. Consider the story of Samson, a man chosen by God, set apart for greatness, and gifted with supernatural strength. His downfall was not his enemies, but his own unchecked desires. He surrendered his divine power to the embrace of Delilah, a symbol of lustful distraction, and in doing so, he lost everything. His strength was not taken by force, it was forfeited through indulgence. This is what happens when a person allows lust to control them. They give away their divine authority in exchange for a momentary thrill. The greatest deception of lust is that it convinces you it is harmless, that it is simply a natural desire to be entertained. But the moment you entertain it, it begins to alter your spirit. It weakens your discipline, erodes your confidence, and distracts you from the path God has set before you. A mind consumed by lust cannot focus on vision, cannot dream beyond the next indulgence. It is a thief, robbing you of your creative power, your divine imagination, and your ability to shape the world according to God's purpose. But there is a way out. The moment you recognize that lust is a mental construct, you gain the power to dismantle it. You are not at the mercy of your thoughts, you are their master. The same imagination that lust perverts can be reclaimed and used for divine purpose. Instead of allowing desire to enslave you, you can redirect that energy towards something greater. When you break free from lust, you regain control over your mind. And with that control comes the power to manifest the life God intended for you. Lust is a prison, but it is a prison with an open door. The moment you choose to rise above it, to discipline your thoughts, and to master your desires, you step into a higher realm of power. This is where true dominion begins, where your imagination is no longer a battleground for indulgence, but a canvas for divine creation. When you understand the price of lust, you will no longer be willing to pay it. Instead, you will claim the inheritance that is rightfully yours, the power, the vision, and the authority to create your world according to God's will. Esau's story is one of the most tragic warnings in the Bible. He was the firstborn, the heir to a divine inheritance, yet he traded everything for a moment of pleasure. He came in from the field weary and hungry, and in his desperation he saw only one thing, a bowl of stew. His birthright, the blessing that would determine his destiny, was nothing to him in that moment. He was blinded by immediate gratification, unable to see the weight of what he was about to lose. This is the power of lust. It makes the temporary seem urgent and the eternal seem insignificant. It convinces you that what you desire in the moment is more valuable than the future God has ordained for you. Esau did not sell his birthright because he was forced to. He gave it away willingly, dismissing its significance. This is what lust does. It warps perception. It makes a person so consumed with the present craving that they lose sight of everything else. It distorts values, making fleeting pleasure seem more desirable than lasting purpose. When a person is caught in lust, they do not consider the cost. They do not see that with every indulgence, something greater is being lost. Just as Esau thought only of satisfying his hunger, the person trapped in lust thinks only of immediate relief, never realizing that their spiritual strength, their peace, and their divine authority are slipping away. Lust always comes with a trade. It does not take without permission, it offers an exchange. It says, give me your vision, and I will give you a moment's pleasure. Give me your discipline, and I will give you temporary escape. Give me your inheritance, and I will give you what you crave right now. And like Esau, many accept the trade without thinking. They believe they are gaining something, when in reality, they are being robbed. It is only later, when the hunger is gone and the pleasure fades, that they realize the cost. The Bible says that Esau wept bitterly when he understood what he had done, but it was too late. What he had given away could not be reclaimed. The price of lust is always higher than it seems. It does not just steal in the moment, it leaves a lasting impact. It weakens resolve, dulls spiritual sensitivity, and replaces destiny with regret. Every indulgence in lust is a seed planted in the mind, growing into habits that shape a person's life. What begins as a single compromise becomes a pattern, and that pattern becomes a stronghold. Before long, the person who once had dreams, discipline, and divine potential finds themselves empty, wondering where it all went. This is why the enemy tempts with lust. It is one of the easiest ways to strip a person of their power without them even realizing it. But just as Esau had a choice, so does every person who faces temptation. You do not have to trade your birthright. You do not have to give away your destiny for something fleeting. The ability to rule over desire is within you. The Bible says that when Cain was tempted, God told him, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it. The same applies to lust. It will always present itself as an easy trade, but you have the power to refuse it. You have the power to see beyond the moment and recognize that what God has for you is worth more than anything temporary pleasure can offer. The difference between those who walk in power and those who live in regret is their ability to see beyond the immediate. The man who values his birthright, who guards his mind, and who refuses to trade his destiny for a moment of indulgence will always rise above. He will walk in divine authority, free from the chains of lust, and receive the full inheritance that God has prepared for him. The choice is always yours. Temporary pleasure or eternal greatness. Esau chose wrong. Will you? Lust is more than just a fleeting temptation. It is a force that robs a man of his creative power. Every person has within them the ability to shape their reality through thought, imagination, and disciplined desire. This is the divine gift given to humanity. What you consistently focus on, you bring into existence. But lust corrupts this power, diverting it away from creation and into self-destruction. Instead of using imagination to build, to expand, and to manifest the life God intended, a person consumed by lust squanders their energy on temporary pleasures that lead nowhere. The Bible says that God created man in his image, meaning man was given the ability to create through thought, word, and action. This is why Jesus said, "Whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours." Belief combined with focused thought brings things into being. But when a man's mind is constantly occupied with lustful thoughts, he forfeits this creative potential. His thoughts, instead of being directed toward greatness, are trapped in an endless cycle of craving and indulgence. His mind becomes divided, weakened, unable to hold a clear vision of anything beyond his immediate desires. The greatest deception of lust is that it appears to offer something valuable when in reality it is an empty promise. It tells a man that he is gaining pleasure, but what he is actually doing is leaking power. Every time he indulges, he dissipates the very energy he could have used to transform his life. Instead of elevating himself, he lowers his vibration, making it harder to connect with higher wisdom, creativity, and divine inspiration. This is why men who are ruled by lust often struggle with focus, discipline, and purpose. They have given their power away to something that only takes but never gives back. Throughout history, the most influential and successful individuals have understood the importance of controlling desire. They knew that the ability to master oneself was the key to unlocking true power. When a man can control his impulses, he becomes unstoppable. His energy is no longer wasted on distractions, but channeled into building, achieving, and manifesting his vision. He is no longer a slave to his lower nature, but a master of his own destiny. Samson's story is a perfect example of what happens when a man fails to guard his creative power. He was anointed by God, blessed with supernatural strength, destined for greatness. Yet he allowed lust to dictate his choices, and in the end it cost him everything. His obsession with Delilah blinded him, not just physically, but spiritually. He ignored the warnings, gave away his secrets, and was ultimately reduced to a powerless captive. His strength was not taken by force, it was surrendered through indulgence. This is the price of lust. It does not destroy instantly, but it slowly drains a man of his essence until he is left weak, lost, and bound. But the man who recognizes this truth can take back his power. The moment he decides to master his desires rather than be mastered by them, everything begins to change. His mind becomes clear, his energy returns, and his ability to create and manifest is restored. No longer distracted, he begins to see opportunities, ideas, and pathways that were previously hidden from him. His focus sharpens, his confidence grows, and he steps into the dominion that God intended for him. Lust is a thief, but it can only steal what you allow it to. The choice is always yours. Will you continue to dissipate your power on things that do not serve you? Or will you reclaim your divine ability to create, to manifest, and to walk in authority? The man who chooses mastery over indulgence is the man who will change his world. Desire is not the enemy. It is the raw material of creation, the force that drives man to build, achieve, and manifest the life God intended for him. But when desire is left unchecked, when it is allowed to rule instead of being ruled, it becomes a consuming fire that devours rather than illuminates. The difference between those who create their world and those who are enslaved by it is mastery over desire. The man who learns to control his appetites, who directs his energy toward purpose rather than indulgence, becomes a master of reality. He is no longer moved by fleeting cravings, but by vision. He does not chase pleasure, he commands it. Lust is what happens when desire is misdirected, when energy that was meant for creation is wasted on temporary gratification. Every man has a choice. He can be a creator, one who shapes his destiny through disciplined thought and action, or he can be a consumer, one who is ruled by his urges and led wherever his cravings take him. The man who is controlled by lust is not in control of his life. He may believe he is making his own choices, but in reality, he is being pulled by unseen forces, enslaved to impulses that promise fulfillment but never deliver. True manifestation begins when a man harnesses his desires and aligns them with a higher purpose. Instead of allowing lust to scatter his focus, he channels that energy into building something greater. This is why those who succeed at the highest levels, whether in business, leadership, or spirituality, understand the necessity of self-control. They recognize that the mind must be trained, that desire must be refined, and that discipline is the price of dominion. When a man disciplines his thoughts, he gains clarity. When he disciplines his body, he gains strength. And when he disciplines his desires, he gains power over his world. Jesus taught that whatever a man believes in his heart, he will manifest. This is the foundation of all creation, the principle that thought precedes form, that inner reality shapes outer circumstances. But when lust dominates the heart, it corrupts the imagination. Instead of using his mind to build his future, the man ruled by lust is trapped in an endless cycle of craving, always reaching but never arriving. He cannot see beyond the moment, and because he cannot see, he cannot create. His mind, which was meant to be a tool for divine manifestation, has become a prison. The path to mastery begins with a single decision, the decision to take control of desire rather than be controlled by it. The moment a man decides that he will no longer be led by lust, he reclaims his power. He steps out of bondage and into dominion. His mind clears, his vision sharpens, and his ability to manifest returns. He begins to see opportunities where before there were only obstacles. He begins to create instead of consume. He no longer wastes his energy on meaningless indulgence, but directs it toward his destiny. This is the secret known by those who walk in power. The ability to control desire is the ability to control reality. The man who masters his impulses masters his future. He becomes the architect of his world, shaping his life with intention rather than being tossed by the winds of temptation. He does not trade his inheritance for temporary pleasure, but holds firm to the vision God has placed within him. His mind, once scattered and distracted, becomes a focused force of creation. His desires, once uncontrolled, become fuel for his purpose. And his life, once dictated by external cravings, becomes a testament to the power of self-mastery. The choice is always there, indulgence or discipline, fleeting pleasure or lasting power, slavery or dominion. The man who rules over his desires will always rise above. The man who submits to them will always remain bound. The question is not whether desire will exist, but who will control it. The man who chooses mastery chooses destiny. The man who chooses indulgence chooses regret. The power to decide is in your hand.